Welcome, everyone. Today, we're unpacking a terrifying and literally historic orbital event straight from our source material. In this explainer, we're going to look at a moment in time that fundamentally altered the space right above our heads. It's a story of, incredible speed, a totally unexpected disaster, and the massive wake-up call that followed. We're talking about the crash between the Iridium and Kosmos satellites, an event that played out high above the frozen landscape of Taymyr, Siberia. As we synthesize the facts here, I really want you to think about the fragility of the tech we rely on every single day.
Right. I want you to put yourself directly into the shoes of the people on the ground on February 10th, 2009. Imagine you're a flight controller. You're sitting at your console, staring at a screen, and you spot two distinct blips. Now, these aren't just pixels, right? They represent massive, incredibly complex machines orbiting the Earth. You see their trajectories converging, you run the numbers, and you realize they're going to intersect. But here's the truly agonizing part drawn right from our source. You can't save them. You are completely, utterly helpless to stop the collision. You just have to sit there, watch those blips, and wait for the inevitable. It's a chilling scenario. And on that day in 2009, it actually became reality.
Okay, let's dive into this. 50,000 kilometers per hour. That was the combined velocity of these two approaching objects when they met. I mean, when we talked about things moving in space, the speeds are almost incomprehensible to us down here on the ground. At 50,000 kilometers per hour, the kinetic energy involved in an impact is, well, it's absolutely devastating. They aren't just bumping into each other, they're hitting with a force that instantly, violently shatters metal, circuitry, and solar panels into this explosive cloud of ruin. This number right here, it's absolutely crucial to understanding the sheer scale of the destruction that was about to unfold.
Section 1. The unstoppable collision over frozen Taymyr.
To really understand this battlefield, we have to look at low Earth orbit, or LEO. See, this didn't occur over a bustling metropolis, but high up above a desolate region of Siberia. And it didn't happen in deep, empty space, either. This is the critical path right near Earth. It's the specific, highly crowded neighborhood where the satellites that basically power our modern world operate. It's where space stations live. It's the active, bustling highway of space infrastructure. Understanding LEO is essential because a crash here isn't just some isolated incident out in the void. It's a massive disruption in literally the busiest intersection of our orbital environment. Moving on to Section 2, active versus dead, an intact spacecraft clash. And this brilliantly illustrates the two specific players involved in this historic, first-of-its-kind accidental crash. On one side, we had an active Iridium communication satellite. This was a super valuable, functioning piece of technology, actively doing its job, routing communications, and serving a real purpose for us on Earth. On the exact opposite side of the spectrum, we had an old Russian Kosmos satellite. This was a dead, completely defunct piece of machinery. It had totally outlived its usefulness, but, well, because there was no way to bring it down, it just kept circling the Earth. Kind of like a heavy, silent, high-speed ghost ship. When active infrastructure meets dead weight at 50,000 kilometers per hour, the result is just catastrophic. The massive historical significance derived from our sources is exactly this. This was the very first accidental crash between two intact spacecraft. Up until this point, space collisions usually involved tiny micrometeoroids or just small pieces of debris hitting a larger object. Sure, sometimes intentional tests or missile strikes destroyed satellites, but this? No way. This was completely unprecedented. Two fully formed, intact spacecraft accidentally finding each other in the vastness of orbit. It pretty much proved that space was getting dangerously crowded, and honestly, our luck had officially run out.
Section 3, the orbiting junk cloud and its thousands of fragments.
Now get this. NASA reported that this single explosion nearly doubled the number of trackable debris in low Earth orbit. I want you to really think about the gravity of that statement. Decades of space exploration had created a certain amount of tracked space junk, right? But in one single fraction of a second over frozen Siberia, that amount almost doubled. Pieces exploded into literally thousands of fragments. And remember what trackable actually means. These are the pieces big enough for those flight controllers to watch as blips on a screen. Suddenly, their screens were just flooded with thousands of new, incredibly deadly blips. But here's the kind of strange part, which is clearly noted in our sources. Despite the extreme violence of the collision, and despite the thousands of fragments raining silently above us, no one on Earth was hurt. Our atmosphere acts as a giant protective shield, and the reality of orbital mechanics means this destructive event remained entirely confined to the skies above us. It was a silent, totally invisible disaster to anyone standing down here on the ground. However, while nobody on the ground was injured, the danger didn't just magically disappear. Not at all. That massive cloud of junk now threatens every single satellite that follows the same path. Every piece of shrapnel is essentially a bullet traveling at orbital speeds, totally capable of destroying another active satellite and creating yet another cloud of debris. It's a persistent, lingering danger to the satellite technology we completely rely on for weather, communications, and navigation today. Section 4. Rewriting the Space Rules, a forced wake-up call. Now, in the spirit of accurate, impartial reporting based strictly on our current source material, it's really important to pause on this note. While we know flight controllers were totally helpless to stop the crash, the specific, highly technical tracking failures that led up to this exact moment in 2009 are, well, they're complex. To fully and impartially understand the precise mechanical or predictive gaps that day, more primary sources and tracking data logs from the agencies involved are actually required. So we rely on the concrete facts we have. The collision was accidental, it was seen but unstoppable, and it forced a massive industry pivot. So, the crucial point is how the industry responded. Governments and companies were absolutely forced to change how they operate. Step 1, they finally had to start sharing tracking data. I mean, you can't avoid collisions if you don't know where the other guy's satellite is, right? Step 2, they had to design safer end-of-life plans. Remember that old, dead Russian Kosmos satellite? We can no longer just leave dead weight up there. We have to plan for how to safely deorbit or move spacecraft once their mission is over. And step 3, the world had to seriously rethink how crowded space really is. The skies are definitely not infinite, and low Earth orbit is a finite, highly valuable resource that absolutely requires careful management. Which brings us to our final provocative thought. Would you have ever believed a silent crash over Siberia could change how we protect the skies above us? It's just incredible to think about. An event that made zero sound on Earth, that injured absolutely no one on the ground, fundamentally rewrote the rulebook for space exploration and satellite management. It was a harsh lesson in the fragility of our orbital infrastructure. I really hope this explainer of the Iridium Kosmos collision has given you a whole new perspective on the invisible, high-speed highway right above our heads. Keep looking up and keep questioning how we protect our future in space.